Hello, hello, hello! What am I doing here?
You're doing your top 10 video games.
But why am I doing that? I don't do that.
Because it was suggested to you and because you gave me a female voice.
Well, it brings out your inner beauty.
Just do it. It might actually be fun.
Whatever. Hello everybody and welcome to my first ever top 10 list. But first, before we begin, some ground rules. First, only one game per series, or this list would be all about one series. Second, these are 100% opinion based. I'm not saying these are the best video games of all time, but they are my personal favorite games. And lastly, how I grade these games isn't based on a single system. They aren't based on graphics or story or anything like that, though I will bring those things up from time to time. But you'll understand once we get there, so without further delay, this is my top 10 favorite video games.
Number 10.
Way of the Samurai 4. I got into its predecessor, Way of the Samurai 3, and when I heard a fourth installment was out, I tried it and loved it. It's a game I find myself coming back to from time to time because of its branching paths, a large list of collectible weapons, and an all-around solid gameplay and combat system. And even though I feel its predecessor is superior in terms of freedom of choice, I still find myself playing this one far more and enjoying it.
Number 9.
The Sims 3. My love for The Sims is long and rich, and it's still only my number 9 because of all the other games that have had a greater impact on me personally. I chose this over The Sims 4 because I feel The Sims 4 is a step backwards from 3 due to the changes in features from the two games, and frankly I've just had more fun with 3 than any other in the series. Even though 4 is growing on me, I still continue to mod and return to Sims 3 because of how complete it feels, and the features it allows me to make use of.
Number 8.
Final Fantasy VII. This JRPG was my introduction to RPGs, narrative-driven writing, and, for the first time in my life, when I resonated with the characters so much that events in the game brought me to tears. It was the first game I realized how to get invested into a game emotionally, and its marks are left on me to this day. I am extremely happy that it's finally being redone by Square, but I swear if they fuck up, I will tear it a new one on this channel, because this game deserves to be respected. But in all seriousness, look at this thing.
I still don't see why we brought a Shinra soldier along. No way he'd throw all that away for us. What's his name, anyway?
Cloud Strife. And he says it's former soldier. Look, heavy security like this, you want a professional.
We're paying you more than a few gil. You best be worth it.
Look, I don't care about your politics.
Doing this for the planet, same as us.
Not interested.
When? Get back! back here! Okay, Riku. Let's move.
You got a lot to live up to, Square. I'm watching you.
Number 7.
Super Metroid. I have a serious love for this game, not only because of the freedom of exploration of a vast, varied map, a large array of weapons and abilities, the ability to switch any of them on or off to handicap yourself for a greater challenge or to find innovative ways to progress, but it has, hands down, in my opinion, the greatest female character of the classic era of video games. Samus Aran is a woman who deserves your respect. And better video games, but mostly respect. Anyone who knows her story from back then knows what she's lived through, and she stands as a testament to a fact that true strength comes in all forms for all gender. I can't sing praises of this game enough, and I think that the games in future iterations are just a step backwards due to the reduction in functionality. I love Super Metroid so very much, and that I truly wish that a game like Super Metroid would come again. I don't think it ever will, but one can hope.
Number 6.
Ace Combat 6: Fires of Liberation. This little-known game is one I fell for hook, line, and sinker because of just how fun it was to just go all out and wreck everything in the air. Anyone who knows me knows I have a history when it comes to flying, and Ace Combat is one of the few games that gives me a platform to just fly at my best. The hardest difficulty is insane, the challenge maps push my skills to the breaking point, and I love every second of it. With solid graphics, wonderful music, and downright punishing difficulty, it is a game meant for serious players, or those who like flying and trying to survive a bullet hell game, only with homing missiles. Also, to note, the flight mechanics are not remotely realistic, but I don't care, it's still fun, and one of the few reasons I still have an Xbox 360 to this day.
Number 5.
Metal Gear Solid 4. I'm quite sure I've said more than once how much I love the Metal Gear series, but if I had to pick one game I played more than any other and had the most fun with, it would have to be Metal Gear Solid 4. What I consider to be the true and proper ending to the Metal Gear franchise. Now, I'm not saying games in this series that have come before or after MGS4 are bad. In fact, I don't think there's a universally bad MGS game out there. But I'll get into greater detail about these things when we get there. And I promise you all, I will cover all the major MGS games, including the last one.
Number 4.
Disgaea. The Disgaea series and I have had an interesting relationship. I love them all, but I can almost never finish them. In fact, out of the 8 games of the series I own, at the time of this video, I've finished maybe 3 of them. It's a series of games I never want to finish. I never want to see how it ends because I don't want it to end. And gameplay-wise, the things you can do are just insane. I am not remotely exaggerating when I say I can perform attacks that do millions upon billions of damage to an enemy and they could live. It's crazy how high you can go in any of those games. I mean, just look at the footage. The reason I picked the original is less because it's the best of all of them, and more because it's the game that brought me to the dance in the first place. So for all the love I have for any of the games in the series, I owe it all to the original, Disgaea.
Number 3.
Skyrim. What can I say about this game that hasn't been said by everyone who's ever touched it? Between its expansive environments that even without mods looks beautiful to this day, the solid and interesting lore of the Elder Scrolls universe, and the countless mods made by talented and gifted individuals and fans of the Elder Scrolls, which only serves to make Skyrim so much more than it could have ever been on its own, and these mods are still being made to this day. If there is an RPG you want to have endless hours of fun with, I can't recommend this game more. And if you're interested in the Elder Scrolls universe as a whole, I'd recommend you start with the third game, Morrowind. Just be sure to keep track of your quests and the information given to you in that game, because it does not hold your hand at all.
Number 2.
Persona 4 Gold. The Persona series is one of my all-time favorite series of video games, and I've played most, if not all of them. I love the unique combat system that allows you to make deals with your enemies to gain benefits that actually motivate you to not just fight them in the first two games. The third game dropped this a little, but what it left behind was still fun. Merging former enemies together to make more powerful partners was still a joy to do, and I was invested in the characters. The fourth one was everything the third one was, but with a murder mystery on top of it, and as a major Phoenix Wright fan, I love me a murder mystery. Persona 4 Gold was a re-release and update for the PS Vita, and I originally thought the fourth couldn't be improved upon, and any attempt to do so would create an inferior product. Oh, how wrong I was. Persona 4 Gold is now the only way I can experience the story now. The old one just feels incomplete now, and the new one is a vastly superior version that deserves to be played. Number 1. Before I talk about my number 1, I have to explain something about myself. When I got my first gaming system that was mine and mine alone, it was a Super Nintendo. One of the first games I got for it was The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. I've sank so many hours into that game, I'm pretty sure if I added all of those hours up, it would be a year off my life. No joke. And it wasn't because it was hard for me, even though it was, and it wasn't because I got lost, even though I did, but it was because I was driven to save the land of Hyrule and the Princess Zelda. At the time, I didn't realize this, but that drive is part of what defines me. I get the greatest joy in life when I'm helping people, and I've helped many people in a lot of ways. It's the courage of the character that gave me the courage in life to do what I do, which is being a security guard. And that courage has made me into a very dependable one. But this isn't my number 1 game. I love A Link to the Past. I love all the Zelda games except for 3 of them. And everybody knows what they are. We don't speak of them. But anyways, my number 1 game is the one that shook up the tone for all the Zelda games that came before it. My number 1 had the most fleshed out characters, the darkest tone, the most interesting assistant to the hero who I argue is the real hero of the story, and is the Zelda that made me see the Zelda games in a way I never thought I would. My number 1 favorite video game is... The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. This game is the game that made me feel the stakes like never before. This game gave me thrills, laughter, chills, and rage all in one game. This game had a wonderful artistic style, fantastic music, muted but intense visuals, some of the greatest writing in any Zelda game to date, the highest count of fully fleshed out three-dimensional characters in any other Zelda game, and Midna. Oh, thank the three golden goddesses for Midna. She is the greatest partner Link has ever had. Strong, powerful, capable, has a real personality, unlike some I could name, a backstory that outshines any partner Link has had, and is a hero in her own right who deserves so much more than what she gets at the end of that game. Twilight Princess does a lot of things different from other Zeldas, and not all of them hit, but I love it to pieces for what it did. And it is my favorite Zelda to date and my favorite video game of all time. And that was my top 10 list. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you can think of a game that you think should be on the list, feel free to share it, but I'll remind you that this wasn't the top 10 best games of all time. These were my top 10 video games. My favorites. The ones I grew up with, the ones that shaped the person who I am today, and the ones that gave me the most fun and enjoyment out of all the hundreds upon hundreds of games I've played in my life. Also, if you like this format, I would love to hear any feedback you might be able to share. Oh, and just to get ahead of the comments, which may or may not show up, I was very vague when I described the video games for a very particular reason. And that reason being is that I didn't want to spoil the experience of these video games for anyone. I also want to encourage everyone, if you can, pick these games up, play them, see why I like them, see why I find them interesting. You just might find a favorite video game of your own among my list. So, next time, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll go back into games. Maybe I'll do a secret review about a movie I've had people request me to talk about. Or maybe I'll just be coasting, but rest assured, I'm not done. This was a very difficult video to do because it's very much out of my comfort zone, but I think it was worth it in the end. So, until then, bye everybody.